Model T engine's cooling system reflected Ford's basic principle of simplicity. The first few hundred Model Ts had a water pump, but this was eliminated early in production. Instead, Ford opted for a cheaper and more reliable thermo-syphon system. Thermo-syphon was a common engine cooling method of the era. Hot water, being less dense, would rise to the top of the engine and up into the top of the radiator, descending to the bottom as it cooled and then back to the engine. This was the direction of water flow in most cars, which did have water pumps, until the introduction of cross-flow radiator designs. Occasionally, the thermo-syphon system was susceptible to overheating if worked heavily, but it served well for most Model T usage. Alright, it's Mitch here again with the 1925 Ford Model T, and in this video we're going to be having a close look at the radiator, because what's actually happened is the radiator on my car has sprung a leak, and so we've got to have the radiator off, and we've got to take it into town and have the core soldered up. If I actually bring the camera in close here, you can see all the rust stain all over it. The leak itself is actually somewhere in this corner, and it's actually worked its way, the water's worked its way across. So what we'll do is we'll disconnect the hoses first and let the water out of the radiator, and then we'll start the process of removing it. Now you can see what I've done here is I've already unscrewed the tie rod here that keeps the radiator upright at the top there and gives the bonnet some support. So now the next step is to let the water out of the radiator, so we'll do that now. Alrighty, now if we take a look down the bottom left corner of the radiator here, you can see, I'll just get the camera to focus, there you go, you can see the glint of a bit of water right in the middle there, and you can see the rust stain down there, so we know roughly where the leak is. What we're going to do first, obviously, is to let the water out. So first of all, we'll take the radiator cap off so that air can actually get into the radiator. So we'll take that out. Now, as you can see in here, the leak and the rust stain has made quite a bit of a mess in here. But what we're actually looking for is this little drain cock just here. We need to put a bucket underneath, open up this little tap, and let all the water out, and then we'll be able to undo these clamps here, top and bottom, and disconnect the radiator hoses, and then we'll be able to unbolt the radiator itself from its cradle. Okay, I have to apologise for my camera work here. I'm filming this on my phone. You can see the tray I've got down on the ground to catch the water. So what we've got here is a pair of pliers. We're just going to open up this tap here, and hopefully, if it's not clogged, which it appears to be, we might be able to get some water out. It looks like the tap's actually clogged, so we might have to just disconnect the hose, I think, because it looks like the tap's actually clogged with dirt or something. So what we'll have to do now is actually remove the hose to get the water out. That's okay. Alright, you can see we've got a bit of a drip going on here, so I've got the bottom hose loose, but it's still putting up a little bit of a fight. So I decided to start undoing the mounting bolts either side of the radiator at the bottom. So we've got the first nut off this side, and now we just need to move across over here and undo the other one. So we'll get that one off next. Right, now I've got those bolts off, we can just simply go ahead and lift the radiator shroud off. That's pretty straightforward, that just lifts straight up and off. I just need to be careful. I'll just have to put the camera down for a second so I can get that past the headlights. Okay, so as you can see, we've got the water coming out now, not out of the tap where I would have liked, but it is still draining. And I've got the radiator free of the top hose here, which is good. So I'll just let that drain off, and then we'll be able to pull the radiator free of that bottom hose. And as you can see here, I've got the radiator shroud off, or cowling or shroud, whatever you'd like to call it, just the decorative cover basically. It's off and the radiator is now ready to come out. Okay, so we've dripped out about as much water as I can get out of the radiator now. So what I'm actually going to do now is go ahead and remove the bottom hose. Now I've already removed the hose clamps, as you can see. We've already got the top hose off. That one came off easy enough. Now we've just got to remove the bottom one, and then the radiator will lift free. So I'll go ahead and I'll ease that hose loose, and then I'll be able to lift the radiator off. Now, one other thing that's in the way that prevents the radiator from coming out is something that runs the length of the engine bay, and it is of course the choke wire. So we have to go ahead and I've already untwisted it at this end, but we have to pull the choke wire right out in order to be able to lift the radiator out. Yeah, so we'll pull the choke wire out now, and then we should be okay. Okay, as you can see, we've finally got the radiator out, and it's quite straightforward to get out. So basically, just to recap, all you have to do is first of all unscrew the tie rod that runs from the back of the engine bay and screws into the back of the radiator at the top, and then you need to undo the nuts on this bolt and this bolt either side of the radiator at the bottom. And the other thing you need to do is pull the this thing here, the choke wire. Just get to focus on that. Pull the choke wire out, and that's all that you need to do, and then the radiator simply lifts straight up. So now what I'm going to have to do is take this one into town and have it patched up. They'll probably put some solder on it or something like that, and then it'll be as good as new. Now I'll just spin around the back here. You can see the condition of the, I had a bit of a spill here, you can see the condition of the water that came out of it. So I'll probably give the radiator a bit of a flush out too and give it a clean before it goes back in. So that's basically the first half of the video. When we come back, you'll see the procedure of putting the freshly fixed radiator back in and filling it up with water, and hopefully no leaks. Okay, so we've got the radiator back now from being repaired, and I was actually quite surprised. Quite interesting really. As it turns out, the core where we first suspected a leak, it wasn't actually leaking there at all. What the culprit was actually here, the overflow pipe, which comes from up here under the underneath the top tank. So what you've actually got here is a rolled steel tube, which is your overflow pipe, and what actually happened is down the bottom portion here it actually got a hole in it and was allowing the rusty water to get into the radiator core, and it was actually tracking all the way across to the other side, where the fan was then spraying all that rusty water all over the place. What I'm actually in the process of doing now is coating all the external surfaces and part of internal as best I can with a bitumen paint, which is to be painted on rusting surfaces, and it helps to prevent further corrosion. And I've also done the same thing on the top tank, although it didn't actually need it. However, one part of the top tank will. Down here there was actually an additional leak in the top tank here, which I've had soldered up, and that's now going to get a nice coat of bitumen paint along with the rest of it, and it should be nice and watertight now. And as you can see here, I had a delivery today from Snyder's Antique Auto Parts in Ohio, and what we've got is the new water pipe that runs up the side of the engine. we've got the inlet and outlet connectors that go onto the block and the head, and we have the rubber hoses, and we've also got the clamps there to hold those on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and mount these new pieces here, the inlet and outlet pipes. We'll connect those up, and then we'll be able to reattach the radiator. Now you can see here I've already gone ahead and removed the old water outlet on top of the engine. Next step is to remove the water inlet pipe off the side here. So we'll get that one off, and then we'll pop the new one on in its place. Okay, so you can see I've got the water inlet off, and now we're going to put the new inlet on, and also the new outlet at the top. So we'll start with the water inlet on the side of the engine. We'll put a gasket in there, and then we'll go ahead and attach it. So I'll just pop the camera down so I can do that, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we'll just put a little bit of WD-40 on these bolts just to make them go in a little bit easier. So a little bit on that one. And a little bit on the other one. And that should go in a lot easier. So I'll just pop that in there. That's better. That's getting a little bit on the tight side. We'll just pop the other one in. Make sure the holes line up. This one also doubles up and holds the horn in place as well, so we have to make sure we get that right. Actually, I realised this one here is actually supposed to hold the throttle linkage as well, so we better put that in. There we go. Now we'll get our trusty Ford wrench and do them up. Just about enough space in here to get the wrench on to do these up. That one's nearly done. Make sure the throttle linkage is straight. Make sure that's still working. I'll just give that a check. A little bit tight there. Just need to move that back a bit. Perfect. Okay, now we'll go ahead and just tighten that one off. Okay, and now we'll tighten the other one. I won't make you watch me do that. Okay, just a couple more turns on that, and one more turn rather, and we should be nice and tight. There we go. We'll just double check, make sure the other one's nice and tight. Yep. Okay. So now what we're ready to do is go ahead and attach the bottom hose here, and then we'll be able to start on the top outlet. Okay, so here we have the replacement bottom hose, which we'll go ahead now and slide that over that. Not too far, of course. And then we can introduce the clip, or hose clamp, which will get that on there nicely and get it into a position where we can actually turn it with the screwdriver
And we'll make sure it's sitting on the rib there. There's a rib on that metal part underneath, and we'll make sure that the clip is actually straddling that nicely so that the hose doesn't come off. And we won't tighten it up all the way because we need to make sure we get the length right down to the bottom, so I'll just partially tighten it. Like so. And that'll just hold it steady while we put the top connection on, up on the outlet here, and then we can move on to putting the radiator back on. Okay, so we're ready to put the outlet pipe on the back on the head. This is the new one. The old one was quite badly corroded. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get some WD-40. And I'll spray the good old WD-40 onto the bolts just to make them a little bit easier to get in. Now let's see if it's going to work. There we go. There's one. And the other one. We'll spray that as well. And we've already got the gasket on there, so we'll go ahead now and we'll bolt this on. And I'll just pop the other bolt in to hold it. I'll tighten these up as far as I can by hand, and then I'll use the trusty Ford wrench to do them up the rest of the way. Hope it's not that one, it's got a bit of rubbish. We'll use this one. Just tighten the other one up. Now we'll put the hose on. Okay, that's on nice and tight. Trick is of course not to over tighten it, because this being all cast iron, if you reef down on this too hard you can actually crack the casting, and that would be a disaster. So never over tighten them. Now what we want is this. This is the top hose. We simply slide that on over there like that. Make sure it's not going to hit the fan. There we go, nice and clear from that. Make sure there's plenty of clearance. It does look a bit low, doesn't it? There we go. And now we're ready for the radiator. Okay, now comes the fun bit. We're going to put the radiator back in, so bear with me here. This is a little bit on the fiddly side, so we'll see how it goes. What we might do actually first is put the bottom pipe and the hose on the bottom of the radiator first. That might actually be a good idea. And then okay, so what we're going to do next is pop the bottom hose on the radiator, and the metal pipe that goes with it. And it's a bit of a fiddly process to put the radiator in, because we've got to jiggle about 3 hoses we've got to line up to get them all in. But we'll get there. Anyway, we'll put the bottom hose on now. Okay, so you can see here I've connected the bottom hose to the radiator and put the metal water pipe in. But if you look carefully, this particular clip here, I've left it loose so that we can move this pipe in and out as we need to get it to line up with the connection on the side of the engine block. So now we are ready to put the radiator in. Now this could take a bit of fiddling about, but bear with me, we'll get it in there one way or another. Okay, so let's get this radiator in. So this might be a little bit on the fiddly side, so we just have to play it by ear and see how it goes. Now we've got to tuck this pipe under here, underneath the fan. And then we've got to ease the radiator through between the headlights. Lift it up and then set it down gently into its cradle. It's one side in. The other side is not quite in. I just need a screwdriver to line that bolt up. Perfect. There we go. And now I've got a very interesting jigsaw puzzle here because the pipes don't actually line up. So what I'm going to have to do is actually undo the connection. This is a bit embarrassing. Undo the connection on the side of the engine so I can get that water pipe in. I should have really thought of this before I started, but not to worry. I haven't actually done a radiator before, to be honest, but I'll show you what's actually happened here. This is a good learning curve, actually. And you won't have to make the same mistake I did. As you can see, there's about a 2-inch difference there, and that pipe's not going to go in there yet. So what I'll have to do is actually disconnect the cast piece that I put on before, and then slide the pipe in and then put that back on the side of the engine. I won't film all of that, I'll just show you what it looks like once I've got this pipe inside. So just bear with me and I'll put this little mistake right. Okay, take 2. So carefully with the radiator here, we'll just get the fan blades in a suitable position, and then we tuck that around the headlights very gently. What are we caught on here? Oh, just on the tap, and then round there, and then the radiator is bedded in. And now we can put the hoses on top. I'll show you what's happening there. As I put the radiator in, you can see the hose just married up in there quite nicely. Okay, that's better. We'll just slacken off this bottom clip here a little bit so that we can adjust where I want the hose to be. Just need to get that in there a little bit more. That's very close. There's the grip, there it is. It's very close to where I need it to be. Just try to turn that a little bit more. I think we've just about got that. Yep. Okay. Now then. Made a bit of a mistake with this clip here. I should have put that on first, but never mind. That will bend back in there. There we go. So now we can put the top clip on. Not a problem at all. There's my screwdriver. There it is. Just give that a nudge in the right direction. Okay, so we've got the top clip and the bottom clip on. Now we just need to tighten those up. The radiator's standing upright as it should be. The fan isn't rubbing on the radiator, which obviously we don't want. So now we can go ahead and we can tighten up these clips nice and tight so that we don't have any leaks. Make sure, hang on, make sure that gets a good firm grip on the hose, but they must be straight, of course, because there is a lug on the pipe to make sure that it's held on there nice and tightly. So let's make sure we get that over the top of that lug. There we go. And then we can give that a good tighten. That's better. make sure they're both nice and tight. That's good. And now we can put that side pipe back on. This one here, the one I had to take off because I was rather silly and forgot to check the distance first. So we'll pop this one back on, and all we should need to do is literally slide that over the top of the metal pipe down the side there, and then marry up these two holes with those on the side of the engine. Okay, so we've got both of those bolts in. Now all that's left to do is actually do up these hose clamps here, so we'll just slide them into position. I'll just undo that piece a bit there, and we'll slide it down and feel for where the notch is on it, which is actually back up here somewhere. Hang on, let's slide that down. You can see the raised spot's actually is actually up here further. So we actually need to put it there, which is good. And now we're ready to go ahead and tighten this one up. There we go, that one's nice and tight, and now we'll tighten this one up the rest of the way as well. Tight, and now we can move on to the bottom hose because it needs to be tightened up also. So we'll just move these things out of the way. And we'll tighten up this clamp. We'll just find where it needs to sit, which is up here. Just move that fan out of the way. And of course, once we've done up all these clamps, we'll then be ready to fill up the cooling system with water and check to make sure that all of our connections are watertight and that we have no leaks. So we'll just finish tightening this up. Like so, everything's nice and tight there. And now we're ready to pop the tie rod back on at the top, which is here. We just need to reattach that to the top of the radiator there, and then we'll be ready for the water. Now, as you can see, we've got the tie rod in place that's holding the radiator nice and firm. That's not going to move. Couple more things we need to do before we put the water in. First of all, down the bottom here, either side, we've got to put these nuts back on that hold the radiator in place. One there, and of course one just here. So we'll pop those back on, and then the other thing is we've got to pull the choke wire back through here, or push it through rather from this side. So we'll do those things next, and then we'll be ready for the water. Okay, so that's the radiator on. Just one last thing literally to go on before we can put some water in it, and that's just the shroud here that goes around the radiator itself. And of course we'll have to put this back on. We can't have it without the good old Ford logo, so we'll pop that on afterwards as well. So let's get the shroud on, and then we'll put the water in and make sure that it's all watertight. Okay, we can see everything is finally back together. We've got 1, 2, 3 hoses all connected up, and of course our metal water pipe in the middle there. Everything's connected, everything's back together. We've got the shroud on, we've done up all the bolts, and we've also connected the tie rod there. I don't know if I can get the camera to focus. There we go, the tie rod that supports the radiator there. Everything's in place as it should be. Now we're ready to put the water in and make sure that all of our connections here are watertight. Okay, that's 10 litres. Just need a little bit more just to get the water into the engine block. is a little over 10 litres of water in there. And now then, the moment of truth. Let's check all our connections here. And, oh, hang on, we've got a leak here somewhere. Yep, I can see water running out there, that's not a good sign. So we better check where that's coming from and tighten it up a bit, I think. Okay, now that we're all sorted, got the water in, got the leak fixed, so it's nice and watertight. We'll now start the engine, let it heat up, and make sure we get a good circulation. So we'll just set the camera down there, and we'll get the car to start. Okay, now the engine's ticking over, we'll let it warm up and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. Okay, so the engine's almost hot enough now. We should start getting some circulation through the radiator, and I'll just touch it up here now. It's actually starting to get warm, so the thermo-syphon is... Oh, hang on, what happened there? Okay, so there you have it. So that's one radiator sorted out, no more leaks, and we're good to go. So hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, and thank you very much for watching, bearing with me for this quite lengthy video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much for watching.